Did you notice the choir is growing? How great is that? Do they sound wonderful? Wow. Wow. We're going to need 2 rows pretty soon. That's beautiful. When we think about love, we often think of many different things. And one of the things that we need to remember is that it is another name for God. God is love. And I think the idea of love can mean so many different things to each one of us, and it's important that we begin to look at love possibly from a new perspective, but in a way that allows us to really celebrate who we are. You see, we can only give what we've got, and so it's important that we find love for ourselves, experience the love of God, and then begin to share the love that we have with others. Does that make sense? Yeah, a little bit of everything. In reading, there's so many great books about love, but Deepak Chopra's The Path to Love is one that's really remarkable. And there's a famous passage from the Vedas that says, "As the microcosm, so is the macrocosm. As is the atom, so is the universe. As is the human body, so is the cosmic body. As is the human mind, so is the cosmic mind." And it's a reminder of our oneness with everything, that we sometimes think about God as something out there when in fact God is the very life that we live, the breath that we breathe, the journey that we walk. So we want to begin to look at love from a new perspective. And when we think about mothers, some of us had really remarkable mothers who loved and treasured and nourished and nurtured us. And some had mothers who were maybe more difficult or a little heavier-handed or whatever to bring us to where we are today. And I think regardless of the type of mother that we had, we have to, or maybe we should consider saying thank you. Thank you for the journey that she has walked. I had a difficult relationship with my mother. My mother was mad at me a lot. And it took me a long time to wake up one day and look at her from a new perspective. And so what I did as I was going through my own healing journey, as I read books like this, The Path to Love, which was really about acceptance of what is, I began to look at my mother in a new way. And what I did was I looked at her as a woman who'd had a life, a woman who was married to a man who was less than kind, and a woman who struggled day by day and moment by moment to try and look after all of these children that she had. 4 from her first marriage, and then 6 from the second. So it was a big family, yours, mine, and ours. We had 1 bathroom. Anybody remember those days? Big families, 1 bathroom, 3 bedrooms. We sleep on top of each other. There's a journey about family that's really powerful because it helps us to discover ourselves if we're willing to do the work. We can look at the journey that we've had, whether we call it good or bad, and remember that it's an opportunity for us to discover something greater about ourselves. And so we discover all manner of things. I think one of the things, I'm going to share something of my husband's. He lost his mom this year. My apologies. Wow. And I know others who've lost their moms as well this year or in previous years. But one of the things that happened with Pierre is that his life was full of all kinds of interesting experiences, but he learned about joy. And he learned about bringing joy to the world as a result of his life experience with his family. I learned about love. I learned about how to share love and bring love and be open to love. And maybe it was because I didn't feel like I had it at home, and so I was searching for it. I think each one of us finds our journey and our way in different ways, and we bring people along on that journey sort of according to how we've lived or what we've discovered or what we've learned or what we have fought to gather for ourselves as we move along trying to figure out our place in the world. Anybody here try to figure out your place in the world? Like, do I really fit anywhere? That was always my big question. I always wanted to be somebody else. I wanted to be taller, I wanted to be blonder, or for a long time it was black hair I needed, and I wanted to fit in, and I wanted to be the popular girl, but then I didn't really like the popular girls, so I wanted to be the rebel. And there was all this struggle inside, and one day I found somebody. I met a woman who became like a surrogate mom. I've had 2 of these in my life, actually. The first one, I was 14 years old. I was a mess. I don't know if any of you were a mess at 14, but I was a mess. I was doing drugs, and I was misbehaving, and I was really struggling, trying to commit suicide, all kinds of craziness. And then I met this woman. She was my social studies teacher in grade 10. Her name was Miss Baxter, and she was a rebel, and she was very cool. But you know what was cool about her? The coolest thing about her is she seemed to see me and like me. And it inspired change in me. And all of a sudden, I started to feel a little bit valuable or special. And so I started to change some of my behaviors, not right away, but over time. And then many years later, and this woman was always available. In my 20s, I could pick up the phone, because she was listed in the phone book. I could pick up the phone and say, Miss Baxter, I need to talk. Come on, let's sit down and have a cup of tea. She was always there. And I remember in my 20s having some difficulties. And again, that idea of, you know what, why not just end it all? Because frankly, who cares? And then she'd pop into my mind, and I'd think, oh, she'd be so disappointed in me. And I'd try again. And then in my early 30s, I found this remarkable church. A little bit like this one. Good old New Thought. And don't you know, she was a member there. And our teacher-student relationship turned into a loving friendship that lasted not long enough. She died at 52 of liver failure. And I miss her still. But I had the privilege of performing her memorial service and celebrating her life, and it was a remarkable opportunity to say thank you. And there's so many ways we can say thank you, and there's so many ways we can remember our mothers and to feel the blessing that they were. And I think of my challenged relationship with my mother and where that took me. It allowed me to maybe be a different mother to my children. I have 4. It allowed me to try to discover within me who I really was so that I could show up more fully, and it brought me to ministry. And I don't know how many of you have found your path in life as a result of your relationship with your mom or your dad, but I think many of us have. We've discovered a little something about ourselves, whether it's in rebellion to or in acceptance of. Somehow we find our way. And I think everything in the universe, just like this quote said from the Vedas, there is that microcosm and the macrocosm are one, and we are one with God. And God within us is showing us the way, and it's showing us through the relationships that we have and through the people who are in front of us and the people who surround us every minute of every hour of every day. They're giving us an opportunity to see ourselves and to see ourselves in a new way, possibly. 1 Corinthians 13:1, if I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And I like that because it reminds us to take love as sort of the number one thing in our lives, the most important thing we can do, to begin to look at the world in a brand new way, to look through our eyes like maybe the Christ did, Jesus, when he walked this earth and was in love with everyone, whether he liked them or not, because we don't necessarily like everybody. But that idea of love is so profound. When I think of Jesus, I think of, a rebel. I like to think of myself as a rebel. I like to do things a little differently. I like to do things kind of my way. And so in doing that, sometimes I annoy people or upset them, my parents most especially, but they got over it, I think. But we journey along finding our way through the mirrors in front of us if we'll pay attention. And so every person in our life is mirroring the inner person that we are. And so if we're seeing a lot of discord and discomfort in our lives, if we will go within rather than blaming that person, if we will go within, we will discover the discord that we have with our own life, with our own self, with our own journey. And if we will look at that closely enough, we can begin to work with it, to find a way to love it, to love all of it. You ever notice that you've got that kind of dark part of you that you don't want anybody to see, and then that really sweet angel part of you that you get everybody to see? Well, all of that makes you. All of it needs to come together in a state of acceptance and joy, because all of it makes you who you are. And that darkness that's within you, when you combine it with your light and allow yourself to fully shine and radiate, you begin to become a beacon in the world. People begin to see you in a new way. All of a sudden, you are the sage rather than the sinner. All of a sudden, there's a synthesis of your being that's more real, and people can see you now. And interestingly enough, they will be less resistant to you. As I journeyed along, I was always the kid in the family who did everything wrong. I was the big disappointment. I was the oldest of 10 and the most disappointing of 10. And one day I came home. I'd been here for 2 years, just before I met Pierre. And I went home, and I'm sitting in my sister's house, and the whole family has gathered, and we're all sitting around chatting, and all of a sudden, it was like this little out-of-body experience, and I looked around and I went, oh, they're listening to me. I had gone from the sinner to the sage, and have no idea how that happened, other than beginning to find me, loving me enough to show up and to be who I was. And I think that's what all of us are being called to do. We tend to journey along and hide a lot. We hide because we think people won't accept our past. Somebody hears the reverend used to do drugs. We're out the door. We're not going to listen to her. Find out she's been married more than once. Whoa! She is a sinner! Yep. But sometimes it takes making a few mistakes to figure out where you're doing it right and how to really be who you are. Because I think when we're making mistakes, when we're falling down, when we're sinning, it's because we're not in love with who we are and the life God gave us to live. We are in resistance to it, and because we're in resistance to it, everything's kind of falling apart around us. But the moment we can look at ourselves and say, God in me is divinely here, how I was made is right and perfect, and so I'm going to choose today to live this life that I was given rather than try to live Bianca's life or Elizabeth's life. I'm going to live mine. And I know not everybody's going to like the way I live my life, but I need to be okay with that, right? Yes. I mean, does everybody like your life? No, most of them are trying to fix it, aren't they? Well, let's stop trying to fix each other, because nobody's broken. God created us in the image and of the likeness. Now, we might be a little bit afraid to show up as who we are. We might hold back a little bit. We might build some brick walls to stay safe. Grand illusion. It only creates suffering. Take down the walls, take down the barriers, find out who you are, and live from that place, live from that voice, live from that celebration. When we allow ourselves to be fully who we are, to celebrate the life that God gave us to live, as we begin to do that, there's a sense of freedom that occurs that can only occur through that place of self-love. And it is only from self-love that I can give love to anyone else, right? Can't give you what I don't have. You ask me for $1 million today, I gotta say no. Gotta wait till tomorrow when the bank opens. No. Oh, someday. But in the meantime, I can't give you what I don't have, and if I don't love myself, if I don't love God with all my heart, with all my soul, what on earth do I have to give to you? And so you show up in my life, and I might be critical and judgmental because I'm trying to, justify myself, elevate myself. I don't know what I'm doing in my judgment, but I am unaccepting of you, but I'm only unaccepting of you because I'm unaccepting of me. And so the journey really is a journey of self, and someone might say, well, that's very selfish, but it really isn't, because as we awaken to who we really are, as we begin to love the life that we've been given, as we become very grateful for every step along the path, even the hard ones. I had a couple of those. Well, more than a couple. We get thankful for all of that, knowing that all of it brought us here. And this moment is a lovely moment. This moment is a beautiful moment. And when we can really accept this life and go, you know what? I'm going to live it, and I'm going to live it big. I'm going to find within my heart my Christ. And then I'm going to take that Christ and I'm going to give it to the world, whatever that looks like. I'm going to stand up and show who I am, and I'm going to be okay with it. And I'm going to be okay with the people who don't really like me. And I'm going to be okay with the ones who honk their horn at me because I don't move fast enough. Okay, that might be a stretch. My little daughter made me this lovely little origami thing. And it's all in French, so I can't even read it. But anyway, it's lovely. And inside are all these little bits of paper. And so she has to translate for me. But she told me whenever I feel sad, I can take one of these out and read what it says on it. And I would do that if I could. But I can't. So I'm going to ask her to read what this one says and then to translate it.
Thank you for being delicious.
Delicious! Wow. It's so sweet because there are a lot of them in here. I'm sure it took a long time to make. Thank you for being delicious. Did you know that you are delicious too? Isn't that a wonderful word to think of yourself as delicious? Like, that's really special because we think of creamy cakes and things like that as delicious. To imagine ourselves as I love that. Thank you. Delicious. The choir was delicious today. And I'm sure we'll get more of it, that delectable deliciousness shortly. Oh, that's a good word, delicious. How do you say it en français?
Délicieux.
Délicieux. Délicieux. I'm learning French. Slowly but surely. One of the things that he said in this book, and he said, by perceiving you will discover that what you hate most in others, you most strongly deny in yourself. This is a spiritual truth that we try to evade by projecting, blaming, and making excuses. Wow. Wow. Don't you just love hearing that? What you hate in others is something you deny in yourself. This is why it's so important that we find love. It's so important that we treat each other with kindness and compassion and respect. And I think as a mother, father, I think it's important that we model for our children and for the people around us the things that we would like for them to be. So I think of my child and I think, well, I want to teach her honesty and integrity. You know how sometimes you go to the grocery store and they give you too much change, like way too much? Do you give it back? Yeah. You know, and I remember years ago, my young son was with me, and I'm arguing with the clerk because she gave me $10 too much. She gave me change for a 20 when I only gave her a 10. And I had to argue the point with her, and my son is watching me. And afterwards he goes, "You're so nice." And I went, "No, it's called karma. I take that. Believe me, something bigger is going to be taken from me." So we go through life realizing that the universe is a reflection of everything we think, everything we do, everything we believe. And so if we can love ourselves enough, we begin to create a reflection that is warm and inviting and creative and harmonious and beautiful. Or we can live from that place of struggle and denial and difficulty and challenge and then begin to create all these lovely people in front of us who push all our buttons and annoy us to no end. Now, it's not to say that when you love yourself fully, you will never run into somebody who's annoying, because you might. The difference is you won't necessarily be annoyed by them. You'll look at them and go, okay, and you'll move on and be friends with somebody else. It's interesting how it changes. So when I was, in my self-hatred phase, I married two very violent men. A perfect reflection of a divine idea, the divine idea I had for me. When I got out of that second bad marriage and decided, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, I still met a few gentlemen before I realized, but I started recognizing them. The big red flags would go up and I'd go, oh, let me escape now before it gets worse. And now I have Pierre, who's lovely and funny and interesting and a really good dad. He's been a stay-at-home dad-mom, which has been awesome, so I could work. Life is whatever you make it. So that's the point of love. Love is about acceptance of who you are and what you are, and then giving that to the world. Love is about being present with what is and accepting it and then creating from it. Love is God. So we come to that place of knowing that God is everywhere present, all-powerful, all-knowing. God is within me, being me. God is in you, being you. And we allow ourselves to live from that place. So, just to be controversial, I was watching the news, which I don't do very often, but I watched it a little bit with the whole Baltimore thing. And I see this mother go in and grab her kid and beat him upside the head 25 times and drag him off. And so I have mixed emotions. First is, thank you, Mom, for stepping up and getting your kid out of there before he gets killed or really hurts somebody else, right? So that's good. However, I really believe in modeling behavior. I don't strike my child because I don't want her to strike anybody. And I'm looking at this kid going, does he need to go to the ER to check for a concussion? Like, she whacked him good. Now, did he deserve to be reprimanded? Absolutely. But I think there was another way. And I know that's controversial, but there is another way. And I would have maybe done this and grabbed him out of there and took him home and said, okay, you know that computer you love so much? Well, we're going to put it away for a while because you need to learn some manners. You also need to learn how to use your words and how to express your desire to change the world without being the abuser. You don't want to be abused, don't abuse. And I know when we look at this whole thing and I'm watching what's going on down there, I'm thinking somebody ought to take those cops and slap them upside the head. And maybe that is going to happen. But I think we want to take a look at our world, my perspective, and give what it is that we want to get. Now, I look at being a parent. My daughter's 10. She is not a saint all the time, I can assure you. And there's moments when I'm frustrated with her behavior. Now, when I was a mom 40 years ago, did I spank my kids? You want to bet I did. Could I do it today? Not a chance. So I've learned some things. And what I've learned is that it's really important for me to be the person that models a behavior that I want my children to model in return. And so with my daughter, I don't hit her. I have been known to yell on occasion, and I'm working on that. God, you're going to be late for school. Yeah, so I've had to get okay with her being late for school. I am learning how to be a mom and how to be a woman and how to be a minister. And I'm learning how to, in every moment, show up in the best way that I can, even when it's hard. And sometimes it's really hard. I remember in my previous church, the church I founded that I served at for 11 years, there came a time when people were really upset with, that happens with ministers sometimes. People get upset with us. And some people were really upset with me, and I found it quite hurtful. And I didn't really know how to deal with it. And I'm so blessed to work with Evan because, man, he's shown me some stuff. I like it. It's been wonderful because I learned a new way of being that's still a loving, compassionate person, but a person who has great strength and power and great conviction and belief in themselves. Because I think for me, I was trying to be everybody's friend, and I was trying to be too nice, and sometimes I didn't say the things that needed to be said. And so even with our children, they're not our friends. So anybody who has little kids, they are not your friends. When they become adults, a whole different thing. But when they're little, they are not your friends. They are in your care for a time. And it's up to you to create a container that allows them to discover who they are without harming others or themselves. So your job is to keep them alive to adulthood and then out the nest. Oops. Guess what's coming, G? I think it's really, really, really important that we do some of that. That loving is really about preparing them for the real world. It's about preparing them to be the best they can be. It's about recognizing their strengths, their gifts, their talents, and nurturing that, and allowing them to really shine. And we do that when we give them a little bit of room, but not too much. And that we model the behavior that we want them to have. My daughter was upset when my granddaughter started smoking, and I went, "You and your husband smoke." Like, they see it all the time. What do you expect, right? You can't tell them they can't do it, and then you're doing it, right? They're getting a mixed message. We got to model. Genevieve corrects me all the time. How come you can interrupt me and I can't interrupt you? How come you can tell me what to do, but I can't tell you what to do? So we have these great conversations because she's an intelligent child. And she has great respect. I'm sure most of you who have talked to her or had a conversation with her will know that she respects you and admires you, especially you, Shem. She loves you. She loves listening to Shem on the radio and stuff. But I'm watching the behavior of my child, and a lot of the training has come from my husband. He's been the main caregiver. And he has taught her many things that surprise me when I see them. A new neighbor had moved in, and she went over and met this person. She came back to me and said, "You need to come and meet so-and-so." And she took me over into their backyard, and I'm feeling a little uncomfortable walking into the backyard. And she walks up and she says, "You know, Mary, this is my mother, Barbara. Barbara, this is Mary." And I thought, who does that? Who does that anymore? And I thought, that is wonderful, and my husband taught her that. So we have an opportunity to be who we are, and I think that's what real love is to be who we are, to know that God created us. If God created us, we must in fact be perfect, whole, and complete. Then from there, to find our gifts, talents, our unique, special, divine self, and give that to the world. That's our job. If we're mothers or fathers, our job is to encourage our children to be the very best that they can be. To awaken within them a sense of passion, desire, a sense of oneness with all people, respect, kindness, and joy. Yesterday in the car, Trevor, we had some joy, didn't we? What was your saying? One in a million. If anybody's watched the show, the movie with the Minions, One in a Million went on for hours, and she was laughing so hard she was crying. So we can allow that joy. In my home, joy wasn't allowed. It was like, shh, be quiet. Don't laugh too loud. Don't laugh too, quiet down. So we want to take a look at how we're being with each other, how we're being with our children, how we're being with our friends and family. Can we just accept them the way they are? Mm-hmm. Sure you can. But it'd be a great thing to try, wouldn't it? Imagine for a minute that nobody needs to be fixed. Imagine for a moment that everybody, just the way they are, they're perfect, whole, and complete. You may not like the way they act, behave, do certain things. But if you could just accept it is what it is and look after, what does Evan say? Be the CEO of your own life? Ignore everybody else's? Then you create peace and harmony all around you. You create a sense of beauty and grace wherever you go. It's really about accepting us for us. Remember, what I hate in another is really something I've denied in myself. And if we take that idea right back, and then tell ourselves, you know what, I'm one with God. So I must be perfect, whole, and complete. I remember watching, some conversations that happened on Tuesday. I was at a conference on HIV/AIDS and reducing stigma within faith groups. And it was wonderful to watch. There was a minister in the group because it was really about different faiths and faith groups coming together and talking about this and trying to understand it and come to a sense of acceptance and love, and especially as ministers or imams, to be able to love our congregation and to be with our congregation in a place of understanding. And so it was really beautiful. There was a minister there who in the morning sat back and said, there is nobody in my congregation who has HIV/AIDS. I know that for sure. And at the end of the day, she said, I'm going to invite the group in to do a training with my people, because I'm sure there's things going on that I don't know. And if people are feeling that they can't be here because they won't be accepted, she said, I want to fix that, in certain words she talked about. But I thought, wow, what a big step that this woman is standing up and saying, maybe things are different than I know. And so I want to invite all of you to just look at your life and look at the things about you that you might think are wrong and bad, and just learn to love yourself enough. And then to look at the people around you and to realize their perfection as well. To begin to see everyone that you come in contact with as a divine being. Someone that needs certain things. You know, we all need the same stuff. We need love, first and foremost. We need food, shelter, water, air. Right? And so if we can come together as a community, if we can come together in support of one another, if we can begin to accept each person as they are, rather than as we would like them to be. You know how you get married and you think, okay, now he'll be great when? When I fix this, fix that, and fix the other thing. So if we could just sit back and say, no, I choose to love and accept people for where they are, for how they are, there becomes a shift. And what I saw on Tuesday was a shift in consciousness for a number of people. A conversation that was open and honest, because not everybody liked having the conversation. And it was really good to have it anyway. You see, we all think differently. I talked about hitting kids. Now, you might think it's absolutely right to spank a child. And I'm not going to argue with you. For me, it isn't. All I'm saying is take a look at your life, and can you accept that my belief is different than yours? And be okay with that. And can I accept that your beliefs are different than mine and your behaviors? And can I be okay with that? This is the conversation we're having. This is the path to love. The gift of love is this infinite possibility of being something spectacular and remarkable just as we are. And are you ready for that? Are you ready to be you? To shine so brightly that people look at you and they're in awe of who you are and what you could be, or how you're showing up? No? Yes? Maybe? Yes, no, maybe. That could be a song. Yes, no, maybe. I mean, think about it for a moment. Are you ready? Are you really ready to love? Is there anybody in the room who's looking for love? Yeah, sometimes we're looking for a relationship. We're looking for someone to love, somebody to love us. If you are, you don't have to admit it, but if you are, you have to be the love that you want to have in your life. You gotta be it. You know, when I met Pierre, I was 45 years old. I sat down on my birthday by myself, and I turned around and I thought, what a good life I have. I have a beautiful apartment. I live in a great city. I love my job. I love my church. I love my congregation. Wow, if this is as good as it gets, I'm good with that. And 2 months later, dun-dun-dun-dun, there was Pierre. 6 months after that, we were married. 2 years later, we had a little beanie. And now 13 years has passed, and the relationship just grows and is what it is. And it's lovely. It's lovely to be in a relationship where you can be who you are. You don't have to be shiny every day. You can be a little tarnished on occasion and still be loved. And isn't that nice? Wouldn't you love to be able to wake up without makeup and still have your partner love you?
Yeah.
Your dog does. Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. I mean, you look good with your makeup on. Doesn't Shem look great with his makeup on? It's awesome. It's awesome. In here he says that one of the greatest challenges is that we're spirit and flesh. And that's the journey, right? How do I walk that line of being this, what seems to be a finite being with flaws and challenges, and the fact that I'm spirit and unlimited and unbound? How do I synthesize those two? And for me, it's about prayer and meditation, and it's about taking the time every day to really take a breath, take a moment in the silence, and remember there is only God. And when I remember there's only God, then I have the choice to remember that it's being me. So what do I really have to fear? Why do I doubt so much? Do you doubt and fear sometimes?
Yes.
You know, are people going to like me? My husband's writing a script right now for a show, and I know he's a little nervous about whether or not it's good enough. And when we do what we do, right, when we give our gift, we really want people to like it. You know, when I do a Sunday talk, I really want you to like it. I need to get over that because not everybody will. And he's writing his script that thousands of people are going to watch when it's performed. And there might be a couple people who don't like it, although I can't imagine that. He's very funny. Y'all can come and see the show when it's on. The journey is the journey to you. I can't really say it any simpler. You're here as a spiritual being, living this finite experience, or so it appears. And as you reconcile the two, you discover freedom, joy, happiness, bliss, wonder, awe. And it's about reminding yourself daily. When you get scared, when you get on the subway and there's somebody sitting there that you go, oh, I don't want to sit beside that person, but it's the only seat and your feet are tired. Sit down and be the love. You don't know who you're sitting beside. That could be Christ right there. Well, it is, actually. Find yourself. Find yourself. That's all you got to do. The path to love is the path to self. And as you come to that place and then recognize that I'm one with everybody, there's no separation. There's no other. There's only me. And everything in front of me is a reflection, a mirror reflection of me. So if I like what I see, awesome. And if I don't, oops. I have the power to go in and work on that area within myself that I've been denying, just like you do. So we're all special. We're all beautiful. We're all wonderful. We're all perfect. And we all make mistakes, and we struggle. And we only make mistakes and struggle because we forget who we really are. God. God, that's it. I am the Christ. Can you say that?
I am the Christ.
Could you say it like you believe it?
I am the Christ.
That's better. That's better. Recognizing that Jesus the man knew he was the Christ. So he could touch the hand of the leper. He could love the person begging on the street. And there were days when he couldn't love and had to find it within himself to do it anyway. I invite you to find you, to celebrate who you are, to love the person that you were created to be, to discover your gifts, your talents, your joys, and to begin to stand in all that you are, that you might give that to the world. You might remind everyone of how beautiful, how special, how remarkable they are. Are you ready for that? Every time you look at somebody, you say, oh, you're so beautiful. What was that song at the beginning? You are so beautiful to me. Okay, I'll leave the singing to them. You are so beautiful to me. And if we begin to see each other that way, oh my goodness gracious, what a world we would live in. We wouldn't be lifting guns. We wouldn't be smacking people upside the head. We wouldn't be throwing stones. We'd be having a party. It could be like Caravana all the time, just getting our dancing on, getting our groove on, wearing bright colors, looking fabulous. What world do you want to live in? What do you think? What world do you want to live in? Happy, peaceful, joyous, fun, interesting, exciting, dynamic, divine. It's all yours. But you got to find it here first. Be the joy, be the love, be the light, be the whatever you want to be. I'm going to love you anyway. God bless.
Delicious folks here. Let's do this. Sometimes in our lives we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, and I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean. Join us. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. Let me hear you. We all need somebody to lean on. Now I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, well, I'm right up the road and I'll share your load. If you just call me, let's go. You just call on me, brother, when you need a. Let me hear ya. We all need somebody to lean on. Now I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on me now. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand.